The blood-red sun hung low over the dusty horizon as Sophia Lancaster stumbled into Roswell, New Mexico territory, her worn boots leaving faint tracks in the dirt road. The year was 1879, and the West had yet to be fully tamed. Her threadbare dress, once a cheerful blue, had faded to the color of the endless sky above her. She clutched a small leather satchel containing everything she owned in the world, which wasn't much. 3 days without a proper meal had left her light-headed, but determination kept her moving forward. Sophia had fled St. Louis with nothing but hope and a promise from her late father's friend about work in this small frontier town. That promise, like many others in her 22 years of life, had evaporated like morning dew under the harsh western sun. When she arrived at the general store where she was meant to work as a clerk, she discovered the owner had passed away 2 months prior, and his son had sold the business. The main street of Roswell buzzed with late-afternoon activity, cowboys lounging outside the saloon, merchants closing up shops, and a few women hurrying to finish errands before nightfall. Sophia's stomach growled painfully as she caught the scent of fresh bread from the town bakery. She reached into her pocket, already knowing she would find only 2 pennies, not enough for even a small roll. "You look like you could use a meal, miss," a kind voice spoke from behind her. Sophia turned to see an elderly woman with silver hair and weathered hands standing in the doorway of the bakery. "I'm afraid I can't afford one today," Sophia replied, her voice hoarse from thirst and pride. The woman studied her for a moment. "My name's Martha Wilson. I've been baking in this town for 20 years, and I know a newcomer when I see one. Come in and have something to eat. You can pay me back by helping me clean up afterward." Tears pricked at Sophia's eyes, but she blinked them away. "That's very kind of you, Mrs. Wilson. I'm Sophia Lancaster." Inside the warm bakery, Sophia ate a bowl of bean soup and 2 slices of crusty bread while Martha told her about Roswell. "Town's growing," Martha explained as she wiped down counters. "Ever since the railroad came through 40 miles north, we've been getting more settlers. Ranchers doing well too, at least the ones who managed to survive the drought 2 years back." "You know of anyone hiring?" Sophia asked, carefully wiping her mouth with a napkin. "I can do just about anything: cooking, cleaning, sewing. I worked as a school teacher's assistant back in St. Louis." Martha's eyes brightened. "As a matter of fact, I might know something. Ethan Northrup's place is about 3 miles west of town. His wife Caroline died in childbirth last winter, leaving him with 3 little ones. Oldest can't be more than 7. Man's been struggling something fierce, trying to run his ranch and care for those children." "He needs help with the children?" Sophia asked. "More than he'll admit," Martha sighed. "Prideful man Ethan is, good rancher, respected in these parts, but those children, they need a woman's touch. He's been bringing them to town looking ragged and half-fed. Not from neglect, mind you. He loves those children something fierce. Just doesn't have time to do it all." Sophia considered this information. "Do you think he'd consider hiring someone?" "Can't say for certain. But I know he'll be in town tomorrow morning to pick up supplies. Usually stops here for bread around 9 o'clock. You're welcome to sleep in my spare room tonight and speak to him yourself tomorrow." True to Martha's word, Ethan Northrup arrived at the bakery shortly after 9 the next morning. Sophia had spent the early hours helping Martha prepare the day's baking, earning her keep while nervously rehearsing what she might say to the rancher. The bell above the door jangled, and Sophia looked up from kneading dough to see a tall man enter, holding the hand of a small girl while a young boy trailed behind. Another child, a toddler barely walking, was balanced on his hip. Ethan Northrup was not what Sophia had expected. Though his clothes were dusty from the ride to town, they were clean and well kept. His dark hair curled slightly beneath his hat, and his face, though weathered from sun and wind, was handsome in a rugged way. But it was his eyes that caught her attention, deep blue, and filled with a weariness that belied his strong physical presence. "Morning, Martha," he called, his voice deep and pleasant. "Need the usual plus whatever sweet thing you've got for the little ones." "Mr. Northrup," Martha greeted warmly, "I've got your order ready, and some sugar cookies just came out of the oven that might brighten these children's day." The little girl, who appeared to be about 5, peeked out from behind her father's leg and stared at Sophia with wide, curious eyes. Her dark hair was plaited in 2 untidy braids, and her dress, though clean, was missing a button. Martha gestured toward Sophia. "Ethan, this is Miss Lancaster. She's new to Roswell and looking for work. Miss Lancaster, this is Ethan Northrup and his children." Ethan nodded politely but with clear disinterest. "Madam." Sophia wiped flour from her hands onto her borrowed apron. "Mr. Northrup, it's a pleasure to meet you. Mrs. Wilson mentioned you might be in need of some help with your children." His expression immediately closed. "We manage just fine, thank you." He turned back to Martha. "Just the bread today, please." The oldest boy, who had been quietly standing by the door, suddenly spoke up. "Pa, can we have cookies? You promised." Ethan's face softened as he looked at his son. "Yes, Thomas. Pick out 3 for you and your sisters." Sophia noticed how the children's clothes, while relatively clean, showed signs of hasty mending. The toddler's hair needed brushing, and all 3 looked as though they could use a hearty meal. Martha handed Ethan his bread and the cookies for the children. As they turned to leave, Sophia made a split-second decision. "Mr. Northrup," she called, "I'm very good with children and an excellent cook. I'd be happy to come out to your ranch and prepare a proper meal for your family. No charge, just to show you what I can do." Ethan paused at the door, studying her with those piercing blue eyes. "Why would you do that?" "Because your children look like they could use a home-cooked meal and I need work," Sophia answered honestly. "1 meal. If you don't think I can be of help afterward, I'll come back to town and look elsewhere." The little girl tugged at her father's hand. "Pa, can she come? Please, I'm tired of beans." A ghost of a smile touched Ethan's lips. "Seems my cooking's been criticized." He hesitated, then nodded slightly. "All right, Miss Lancaster, you can come out tomorrow. I'll send my ranch hand Joseph to fetch you around noon." "That's very kind, but I could come today if you'd like. I'm free now." Ethan shifted the toddler on his hip. "We have errands to run. Tomorrow would be better." "Of course," Sophia agreed. "I'll prepare something special for the children." "Only if you eat with us too," Ethan said, his voice softening slightly. "No point cooking a meal you don't share." The invitation, simple as it was, warmed her more than she expected. "I'd be happy to, Mr. Northrup." After they left, Martha smiled knowingly. "Well, that went better than I expected. Ethan doesn't usually accept help so easily." "He's only agreed to 1 meal," Sophia reminded her. "1 meal is all it takes sometimes," Martha replied, returning to her work. "1 meal can change everything." True to his word, Ethan sent Joseph to town the next day. The ranch hand was a friendly Mexican man in his 30s who chatted easily as they rode the wagon toward the Northrup ranch. Joseph explained that he'd worked for Ethan for nearly 5 years, since before he married Caroline. "Boss is good man," Joseph said as they traveled the dusty road. "Hard worker. Fair. Children, they love him very much, but since Senora Caroline died," he shook his head, "the house, it is not the same." "It must be difficult for all of them," Sophia commented, holding tightly to the basket of provisions Martha had helped her prepare. She had spent her last few coins on ingredients for the meal she planned to cook. Little Hannah, she was just born when her mother died. Thomas tries to be the man now, but he is only 7, And Emma, she cries sometimes for her mother. Joseph glanced at her. They need a woman's touch in that house. The Northrup ranch came into view as they crested a small hill. A modest but well-built two-story house stood surrounded by several outbuildings. A corral held a few horses, and beyond them stretched fenced pastures where cattle grazed. It wasn't the largest ranch Sophia had seen on their journey from town, but it was clearly prosperous enough. Joseph brought the wagon to a stop in front of the house. "Boss is out checking the herd. He will return soon. Children are inside with Mrs. Rodriguez. She helps sometimes, but she is old and has her own grandchildren to care for." Sophia thanked him and made her way to the house, suddenly nervous. What if the children didn't like her? What if Mr. Northrup decided her cooking wasn't good enough? The door opened before she could knock, and Emma's small face appeared, breaking into a wide smile. "You came. Pa said you might not." "Of course I came," Sophia replied, smiling back. "I promised I would." Mrs. Rodriguez turned out to be Joseph's mother, a kind-faced woman who seemed relieved to see Sophia. After brief introductions, she explained that she needed to return home and left Sophia alone with the children. Thomas stood back, watching her suspiciously from the doorway to what appeared to be the living room. "Are you going to be our new mother?" he asked bluntly. Sophia nearly dropped the basket she was holding. "No, Thomas. I'm just here to cook a meal for your family today." "Oh." He seemed both relieved and disappointed. Emma tugged at Sophia's skirt. "Can you fix my doll?" Her arm came off. "After I start dinner, I'd be happy to," Sophia promised, looking around the kitchen. It was clean but sparse, with few cooking implements and almost no spices on the shelf. "Where's your little sister?" "Hannah's taking her nap," Emma explained. "She gets cranky if she doesn't sleep after lunch." Sophia set to work, unpacking her basket and taking inventory of what was available in the pantry. There was plenty of beef, as expected on a cattle ranch, along with potatoes, beans, and a few vegetables that had seen better days. She decided on beef stew with dumplings, cornbread, and apple cobbler for dessert hearty, filling food that would appeal to both children and adults. As she worked, Emma stayed close, asking questions and offering to help. Thomas eventually wandered in, drawn by the unfamiliar and enticing smells filling the kitchen. Even Hannah woke from her nap and toddled in, thumb in mouth, watching Sophia with wide, curious eyes. By the time Sophia heard the sound of horses outside, indicating Ethan's return, the stew was simmering, the cornbread was baking, and the cobbler was ready to go into the oven once the cornbread came out. The kitchen was warm and fragrant, and all three children had somehow migrated to helping Thomas setting the table. Emma stirring the stew under supervision, and Hannah sitting on a blanket on the floor, playing with wooden spoons. The door opened and Ethan stepped in, removing his hat as he entered. He stopped short at the scene before him, his expression unreadable. "Pa," Emma ran to him. "Miss Lancaster is making stew and cornbread and apple dessert, and she fixed my doll's arm and showed me how to stir without splashing." Ethan's eyes met Sophia's over his daughter's head. "Looks like you've been busy, Miss Lancaster." "Your children have been wonderful helpers, Mr. Northrup," she replied, suddenly self-conscious under his intense gaze. "Dinner will be ready in about 20 minutes if you'd like to wash up." He nodded, still looking slightly bewildered at the transformation in his kitchen and children. "I'll do that." When Ethan returned, clean-shaven and in a fresh shirt, Sophia was lifting the golden cornbread from the oven while Thomas carefully ladled stew into bowls under her guidance. Emma was helping Hannah into her chair, which had been augmented with a cushion to raise her to table height. "Something smells mighty good," Ethan commented, taking his seat at the head of the table. "It's the bay leaves," Sophia explained. I brought some from town. They add wonderful flavor to stew. The meal passed pleasantly, with the children chattering about their day and the food. Even Thomas, who had been so suspicious initially, seemed to have warmed to Sophia. Hannah ate with surprising gusto for such a small child, and Emma declared the cornbread better than Mrs. Rodriguez's, but don't tell her I said so. Throughout the meal, Sophia was conscious of Ethan's gaze on her. He spoke little, answering his children's questions and occasionally asking Sophia polite ones about her journey to Roswell. She kept her answers vague, not wanting to discuss the circumstances that had forced her west. After dessert, which was received with enthusiasm by everyone, Ethan helped her clear the table while the children went to play in the living room. "You didn't mention you were such an accomplished cook," he said as he carried plates to the wash basin. "You didn't ask," Sophia replied with a small smile, "but I enjoy cooking. It was one of the many things my mother taught me before she passed." "I'm sorry for your loss," he said quietly. "The children told me you fixed Emma's doll and showed Thomas how to set the table properly." "Hannah hasn't taken to a stranger so quickly since." He trailed off. "Since their mother died," Sophia finished gently. "Mr. Northrup, your children are wonderful. They're a credit to both you and your late wife, but they do need someone to care for them while you work your ranch." Ethan leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "And you're offering to be that someone?" "I am. I need work and your children need care. It seems a sensible arrangement." "What do you know about ranching?" "Very little," she admitted honestly, "but I know about children. I know about keeping a home. I can cook, clean, sew, and teach your children their letters and numbers. I worked as a teacher's assistant in St. Louis." Ethan was silent for a long moment. "I can't offer much in the way of wages. Room and board, of course, and $10 a month." It was less than she'd hoped for, but more than she currently had. "That would be acceptable, Mr. Northrup. The children would expect you to be here all the time. It's 3 miles to town. I understand, and I work long hours. Sometimes I'm gone before dawn and don't return until after dark." "That's to be expected on a ranch, I imagine." He studied her face. "Why Roswell, Miss Lancaster? What brought you all the way from St. Louis to our little town?" Sophia hesitated. "A promise of work that didn't materialize. And there was nothing left for me in St. Louis after my father died." Ethan seemed to accept this explanation, though she suspected he knew there was more to the story. "All right, Miss Lancaster. You can stay on a trial basis. 1 month. If it works out for all of us, we can make it more permanent." Relief washed over her. "Thank you, Mr. Northrup. I won't disappoint you." "Ethan," he corrected. "If you're going to be living in my home, looking after my children, you might as well use my given name." "Sophia," she offered in return, "and I'll go back to town tomorrow to collect my things." "I'll send Joseph with the wagon after breakfast," Ethan said. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to check on the horses before dark." After he left, Sophia leaned against the counter, overwhelmed by the sudden turn her fortunes had taken. 24 hours ago, she'd been penniless and desperate. Now she had employment, a roof over her head, and 3 children who already seemed to be warming to her. The real challenge, she suspected, would be their father. Ethan Northrup was a difficult man to read, guarded, reserved, still clearly grieving his wife. But there was something about him that intrigued her. A kindness beneath the gruff exterior, a devotion to his children that was evident in everything he did. Sophia put those thoughts aside and focused on finishing the dishes. One day at a time, she told herself. She had secured a position and a place to stay. That was enough for now. The following week passed in a blur as Sophia settled into life at the Northrup Ranch. Joseph brought her few belongings from Martha's house, along with a farewell note from the baker wishing her luck. Ethan showed her to a small but comfortable bedroom that had once been a sewing room, explaining awkwardly that Caroline's sewing things had been packed away in the attic. Sophia quickly established a routine. She rose before dawn to prepare breakfast for Ethan before he headed out to work. The children woke later, and after they ate, she would organize their day chores appropriate to their ages, followed by lessons for Thomas and Emma while Hannah played nearby. Afternoons were spent on household tasks, baking bread, mending clothes, preserving vegetables from the small kitchen garden that had been neglected since Caroline's death. Sophia revived it, weeding and tending the struggling plants with Emma's enthusiastic, if not always helpful, assistance. Ethan typically returned for the midday meal, though sometimes his work kept him in distant pastures. In the evenings, after the children were bathed and in bed, Sophia would often find him on the porch, staring out at the land that was his livelihood. On the 8th day, she brought him a cup of coffee as he sat watching the sunset. "Thank you," he said, accepting the steaming cup. "You didn't have to do that." "I know." Sophia hesitated, then sat in the chair beside him. "The children did well with their lessons today. Thomas is quite good with numbers. Takes after his mother," Ethan replied, a hint of sadness in his voice. "Caroline could add figures faster than most men I know. Emma has a gift for storytelling," Sophia continued, "and Hannah said 3 new words today." A small smile touched Ethan's lips. "They seem happier since you came, more settled. Children thrive on routine and attention," Sophia said. "You've done remarkably well with them, considering everything." Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know that I'd agree with that assessment. I've been barely keeping my head above water since Caroline died. The ranch, the children. It's been too much for one person." "That's why I'm here," Sophia reminded him gently. He turned to look at her directly, his blue eyes intense in the fading light. "Why are you really here, Sophia?" "In Roswell, I mean. You're educated, clearly from a good family. There must have been opportunities for you in St. Louis." Sophia looked away, watching as the last rays of sun painted the distant mountains gold. "My father was a university professor. When he died last year, I discovered he had accumulated significant debts. Everything we owned was sold to pay his creditors." She twisted her hands in her lap. "I had a position as a teacher's assistant, but the headmaster's son, he made unwelcome advances. When I refused him, he accused me of impropriety. I lost my position." "That's unjust," Ethan said quietly. "The world is often unjust," Sophia replied, "especially to women without protection. My father's friend wrote that he could offer me work in his store here in Roswell. By the time I arrived, he had died, and his son had sold the business. And yet you didn't turn around and go back east." "I couldn't afford to," she admitted, "and there was nothing to go back to. At least here I thought I might find a fresh start." Ethan nodded slowly. "Well, I'm glad circumstances brought you to us, however difficult they might have been." He hesitated, then added, "The children ask about their mother sometimes. I never know quite what to tell them." "What was she like?" Sophia asked softly. A genuine smile transformed Ethan's face. "Caroline was remarkable, strong, determined. She came west with her family when she was 16, could ride and shoot as well as any man, but she also had a gentleness about her, especially with the children." His smile faded. "She was so excited about Hannah. We'd wanted a big family. And then the fever took her just days after the birth." "I'm so sorry, Ethan," he stood abruptly. "It's getting late. I'll be riding out early tomorrow to check the north pasture." Sophia recognized his withdrawal for what it was, grief still too raw to share fully. "Of course. Good night, Ethan." As she watched him walk back into the house, Sophia acknowledged the dangerous warmth spreading through her chest. Sympathy, she told herself. Nothing more. She was here to care for his children, not to develop feelings for a man still deeply in love with his dead wife. But as the days passed, Sophia found it increasingly difficult to maintain emotional distance. The children captured her heart completely: Thomas with his solemn responsibility, Emma with her exuberant imagination, and little Hannah, who had begun to reach for Sophia when she wanted comfort. And then there was Ethan. Despite his reserve, she found herself noticing small things about him: how his eyes crinkled when he smiled at his children, the gentleness of his large hands when he lifted Hannah, the low timbre of his voice when he read to the children before bed. Their conversations on the porch became a nightly ritual, gradually growing longer and more personal. On a Sunday afternoon, 3 weeks after her arrival, Ethan surprised her by announcing they would all attend the town social. The social. Sophia repeated, looking up from where she was helping Emma string beads. It's held once a month, Ethan explained. The whole town gathers for a picnic and dancing. The children enjoy it, and it would be good for you to meet more people in Roswell. That sounds lovely, Sophia replied, ignoring the flutter in her stomach at the thought of attending a social event with Ethan. Should I prepare something to bring? Your apple pie would be welcome, he suggested with a smile that made her cheeks warm. Mrs. Rodriguez claims it's the best she's ever tasted. The social turned out to be a lively affair held in the town square. Tables were laden with food, a small band played cheerful tunes, and nearly everyone from Roswell and the surrounding ranches had turned out. Sophia wore her best dress, a simple blue cotton that she had carefully mended and pressed for the occasion. Martha greeted her warmly, introducing her to several townspeople. "You've put some color back in Ethan's life," the baker whispered when they had a moment alone. "The whole town's noticed." "I'm just caring for his children," Sophia protested. Martha gave her a knowing look. "If you say so, dear." As the afternoon progressed, Sophia found herself enjoying the company and conversation. The children ran off to play with their friends, and Ethan was drawn into discussions with other ranchers. Sophia was helping to serve food when she noticed a well-dressed man watching her from across the square. Something about his gaze made her uncomfortable. Later, as the band began playing for dancing, the man approached her. "Miss Lancaster, I presume? I'm Victor Reynolds. I own the bank here in Roswell." "How do you do, Mr. Reynolds?" Sophia replied politely. "I understand you're working for Northrup," he continued, his smile not reaching his eyes. "Curious choice for a lady of your obvious refinement." "The Northrups have been very kind to me," Sophia said, looking around for Ethan. "Northrup's place is modest at best," Reynolds commented. "I've offered to buy him out several times. That land would be much more profitable under proper management." Before Sophia could respond, Ethan appeared at her side. "Reynolds," he acknowledged coolly. "I see you've met Miss Lancaster." "Indeed," the banker replied. "I was just explaining to her that your little ranch could be put to better use." Ethan's jaw tightened. "My little ranch supports my family just fine, Reynolds, and it's not for sale, as I've told you repeatedly." Reynolds shrugged. "Every man has his price, Northrup, even you." He tipped his hat to Sophia. "Miss Lancaster, a pleasure. Should you ever tire of playing nursemaid, my wife could use a lady's companion. The pay would be considerably better." After he walked away, Sophia turned to Ethan. "He seems unpleasant." "Reynolds has been trying to buy up all the small ranches in the area," Ethan explained, his voice tight. "He's got investors from back east who want to create one massive cattle operation. And you won't sell. That land has been in my family for 2 generations, Ethan said firmly. "My father worked himself to death building that ranch. I won't dishonor his memory by selling out to Reynolds." The band struck up a waltz, and Ethan hesitated before asking, "Would you care to dance, Sophia?" Surprised and pleased, she nodded. "I'd like that very much." As Ethan led her onto the makeshift dance floor, Sophia was acutely aware of curious glances from the townspeople. Clearly, Ethan Northrup dancing was an unusual sight. His hand at her waist was warm and steady as he guided her through the steps. "I'm afraid I'm out of practice," he apologized when he missed a step. "You're doing fine," she assured him. "When was the last time you danced?" A shadow crossed his face. "With Caroline, at last year's harvest dance." She was already expecting Hannah but insisted on dancing anyway. "She sounds like she was quite remarkable." She was. He looked down at Sophia, his expression softening. "The children adore you, you know. Thomas asked me yesterday if you were going to stay forever." Sophia's heart skipped a beat. "And what did you tell him?" "That I hoped you would stay as long as you wanted to." The music ended before she could respond, and they were immediately surrounded by the children, all clamoring for attention and sweets from the dessert table. As they drove home later that evening, the children sleeping in the back of the wagon, Ethan spoke quietly. "Reynolds wasn't wrong about one thing. You are overqualified to be looking after my children and my home." "I disagree," Sophia replied. "Your children deserve the best care possible." "And I'm happy here, Ethan. Happier than I've been in a long time." In the darkness, his hand found hers and squeezed gently. He didn't let go until they reached the ranch. The following weeks brought a rhythm to life that Sophia had never experienced before. The ranch work intensified as summer progressed, with Ethan and Joseph working from dawn until well after dusk most days. Sophia took on additional responsibilities, learning to manage household accounts and even helping with some of the lighter ranch work when needed. One evening in early August, a thunderstorm rolled in just as Ethan and Joseph were returning from the far pastures. Rain pounded against the windows as Sophia hurried to serve the dinner she'd kept warm. The children were already bathed and in their nightclothes, eager for their father's return. "Nasty out there," Ethan commented as he hung his dripping coat by the door. His hair was plastered to his head, and his shirt clung to his broad shoulders. "Joseph's staying in the bunkhouse tonight. Creek might flood if this keeps up." After dinner, as Sophia was tucking the children into bed, a particularly loud crash of thunder sent Hannah into tears and Emma diving under her blankets. "It's just the sky talking," Sophia soothed, gathering Hannah into her arms. "Nothing to be afraid of. Can you stay until we fall asleep?" Emma asked, peeking out from her hiding place. "Of course I will," Sophia promised, settling into the chair between their beds with Hannah on her lap. She began to sing softly, an old lullaby her mother had sung to her during storms. Unbeknownst to her, Ethan stood in the doorway, watching as she calmed his children with her gentle voice and presence. Something tightened in his chest, a feeling he'd thought buried with Caroline. He backed away silently, troubled by emotions he wasn't ready to acknowledge. Later, Sophia found him in the living room staring into the fireplace where flames danced against the backdrop of the stormy night. "The children are asleep," she said softly. "Even Thomas, though he insisted he wasn't afraid of the thunder." Ethan nodded without turning. "You're good with them." "Better than I ever expected." "They make it easy," Sophia replied, moving to stand beside him. "They're wonderful children. Because of you," he said, finally looking at her. "You've brought something back to this house that I thought died with Caroline. Life. Joy." The intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. "Ethan, I never thought I'd feel this way again," he continued, his voice rough with emotion. "When Caroline died, I thought that part of me died too, but you—" He reached out, his fingers barely touching her cheek. "You make me remember what it's like to want a future again." Before Sophia could respond, the front door burst open, and Joseph stumbled in, water streaming from his poncho. "Boss." The The creeks overflowed, waters heading toward the lower pasture where the new calves are. Ethan immediately switched from vulnerable man to determined rancher. "Get the horses. We'll need to move them to higher ground." "I'll come help," Sophia said, already moving toward her coat. "No," Ethan said firmly. "Stay with the children. If the water rises further, take them up to the attic. It's the highest point. But promise me, Sophia." His eyes held hers, leaving no room for argument. "I promise," she replied. "Be careful, Ethan." After they left, Sophia paced anxiously, checking on the children periodically. The storm seemed to intensify, with wind howling around the house and rain lashing against the windows. An hour passed, then two, with no sign of Ethan or Joseph. Just when Sophia was considering waking Thomas to help her move the younger children to the attic, she heard horses in the yard. She rushed to the door to see Ethan dismounting, his clothing plastered to his body, his face drawn with exhaustion. "The calves?" she asked as he stepped inside. "Safe," he replied, removing his sodden hat. "Got them to higher ground just in time. Joseph seeing to the horses." "You're soaked through," Sophia fretted. "You'll catch your death. Let me get you some dry clothes." She hurried to his room and returned with clean clothing, only to find him still standing in the entryway, water pooling around his boots. "Ethan?" she questioned softly. He looked at her with an expression that made her heart race. "I couldn't stop thinking about you out there, about what would happen to you and the children if something happened to me." "Nothing happened," she reminded him gently. "You're home safe. This time," he acknowledged. "But ranching is dangerous work, Sophia. I could leave one day and not come back, just like my father did," understanding dawned. "Is that why you've kept your distance? Fear of leaving the children without a father?" "Partly," he admitted. "And guilt. How could I feel this way about another woman when Caroline's only been gone a year? What kind of man does that make me?" Sophia stepped closer, ignoring the water seeping into her slippers. "A human one, Ethan. Caroline would want you and the children to be happy. I didn't know her, but any woman who loved you and those children wouldn't want you to spend your life alone out of some misplaced loyalty." Ethan's hand came up to cup her cheek, his thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. "I don't deserve you, Sophia Lancaster." "You don't get to decide that," she whispered, covering his hand with hers. "I do." The kiss, when it came, was gentle at first, hesitant, questioning. Then, as Sophia responded, it deepened into something more urgent, more certain. Ethan's arms encircled her, heedless of his wet clothing soaking into hers. When they finally parted, both breathing heavily, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. "I should change into dry clothes." "Yes," Sophia agreed, though she made no move to step away. "The children are asleep," he finished, "and will hopefully stay that way." Reluctantly, they separated. "Go change," Sophia instructed, finding her practical side again. "I'll make some hot coffee." In the kitchen, Sophia busied herself with the coffee pot, her mind whirling and her lips still tingling from Ethan's kiss. She had known her feelings for him were growing, but the intensity of her response to him had surprised her. And his admission that he was developing feelings for her too both thrilled and terrified her. When Ethan returned, dressed in dry clothing with his hair still damp, they sat at the kitchen table, the coffee between them serving as a buffer. "I should apologize," he began, "for kissing me." Sophia asked, her heart sinking. "No," he corrected quickly. "Never for that. For putting you in an awkward position. You came here to care for my children, not to deal with a lovesick widower." Despite the tension of the moment, Sophia smiled. "Is that what you are, lovesick?" A reluctant smile tugged at his lips. "Feels that way sometimes. Haven't felt this way since I was courting Caroline. Didn't think I ever would again." "And does it bother you? Feeling this way about someone other than her, Ethan considered the question seriously. "Less than I thought it would," he finally answered. "Caroline was practical above all else. She'd be the first to tell me to get on with living." He reached across the table to take Sophia's hand. "But it's not just about me. There are the children to consider, and your reputation." "My reputation?" Sophia repeated, confused. "You're living under my roof unchaperoned," Ethan pointed out. "So far, the town has accepted it because they know you're here for the children. But if our relationship changed, understanding dawned, people would talk." "They would," he agreed. "And while I don't much care what the gossips say about me, I won't have your name dragged through the mud." Sophia squeezed his hand. "Then we'll be careful. For now, the children are what matter most." "They've already lost one mother," Ethan said softly. "I don't want them to become attached to you only to lose you too." The implications of his words hung between them. This wasn't just about attraction or even affection. This was about the possibility of a future together, a family. "I'm not going anywhere, Ethan," Sophia promised. "Not unless you want me to." The next morning, Sophia woke to find the storm had passed, leaving behind a washed, clean world and considerable damage to the lower portions of the ranch. Fences had been swept away, and part of the road to town was underwater. Ethan and Joseph spent the day assessing the damage and beginning repairs, while Sophia kept the children occupied with indoor activities. That evening, exhausted from the day's work, Ethan fell asleep in his chair after dinner, a book open on his lap. Sophia gently removed the book and covered him with a blanket, allowing her fingers to brush his cheek briefly. Thomas, watching from the doorway, studied her with a thoughtful expression. "You love my pa?" he asked directly when Sophia joined him in the hallway. Startled by the question, Sophia considered how to answer. "Your father is a good man, Thomas. I care for him very much." "That's not what I asked," the boy persisted. "Emma says you look at Pa the way Ma used to, and Pa smiles more when you're around. Would it bother you if I did?" Sophia asked carefully. "Love your father, I mean," Thomas frowned, considering. "Ma's not coming back, is she, even though I pray every night?" The simple question broke Sophia's heart. She knelt to his level, taking his small hands in hers. "No, Thomas, your mother can't come back. But she loves you very much, even from heaven. Nothing will ever change that." "But Pa's lonely," Thomas said with the clear-eyed perception of a child. "And sometimes we need things he can't do, like fix Emma's hair or make Hannah stop crying when she has bad dreams." "And you think I could help with those things?" Thomas nodded solemnly. "You already do, and you make good pie." Despite the seriousness of the conversation, Sophia couldn't help but smile. "High praise indeed. So do you love him?" Thomas pressed. Sophia took a deep breath. "I think I'm beginning to," she admitted, both to Thomas and to herself. "But these things take time, Thomas, and it's complicated." "Grown-ups always say that," the boy sighed. "But it doesn't seem complicated to me. If you love someone and they love you, you should be together. That's what Pa always told me about him and Ma." With that simple wisdom, Thomas hugged her quickly and dashed off to join his sisters upstairs, leaving Sophia to wonder when her life had become so intertwined with this family that a 7-year-old boy's approval could mean so much to her. The next weeks brought a new awareness between Sophia and Ethan. Though they were careful to maintain propriety, especially in front of the children, there were moments, a lingering touch when passing a dish at dinner, a shared smile over Hannah's antics, quiet conversations on the porch after the children were asleep that spoke of deepening feelings. September brought cooler temperatures and preparation for winter. The garden yielded its final harvest, which Sophia preserved in jars that lined the pantry shelves. Ethan and Joseph worked long hours preparing the herd for the coming cold months, repairing damaged fences, and stocking firewood. One evening, as Sophia sat on the porch mending one of Thomas's shirts, Ethan joined her, a thoughtful expression on his face. "I've been thinking," he began, settling into the chair beside her. "A dangerous pastime," she teased gently. He smiled, then grew serious again. "Your month of trial employment ended some time ago. We never discussed terms beyond that." Sophia's hand stilled. "Are you dissatisfied with my work?" "Just the opposite," he assured her quickly. "You've become indispensable to all of us." "But I realized I've been unfair, keeping you here without discussing your future." "I'm happy here," Sophia said simply. "Are you?" Ethan asked, his blue eyes searching her face. "This is an isolated life, Sophia. 3 miles from town might as well be 30 during winter storms. No society, no diversions, just work and more work. And family," she added softly. "The children." Ethan took a deep breath. "That's what I wanted to discuss. I care for you, Sophia, more than I thought possible. The children adore you. But I won't trap you here out of obligation or gratitude." "Is that what you think?" Sophia set aside her mending to face him fully. "That I stay out of obligation? I think you're the kind of woman who honors her commitments," Ethan replied. "And I think you care for the children enough that you might sacrifice your own happiness for theirs." "And what about my feelings for you?" she asked quietly. "Do you think those are born of obligation too?" Ethan's gaze intensified. "I hope not, because mine for you are anything but obligatory." He reached for her hand. "I love you, Sophia. I didn't expect it, didn't want it even, but there it is." Joy bloomed in her chest, but caution tempered it. "What about Caroline?" "I'll always love her," Ethan said honestly. "She gave me 3 beautiful children and some of the happiest years of my life. But loving her doesn't mean I can't love you too. My heart isn't that small." Tears pricked at Sophia's eyes. "I love you too, Ethan, and the children. I love this life we've been building." "Then marry me," he said simply. "Be my wife. Be a mother to my children officially, the way you already are in every way that matters." Though she had begun to hope for this, the actual proposal took Sophia's breath away. "Are you certain? It's only been a few months." "I've never been more certain of anything," Ethan assured her. "Unless you need more time." Sophia shook her head, smiling through her tears. "No, no more time. Yes, Ethan Northrup, I'll marry you." His kiss was tender and full of promise. When they separated, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet pouch. "This was my mother's," he explained, removing a simple gold band set with a small pearl. "My father gave it to her when they claimed this land. I'd be honored if you'd wear it." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Sophia felt a sense of rightness, of coming home. "It's beautiful, Ethan. Perfect." "We should tell the children," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "Though I suspect Thomas already knows. Boy's too observant for his own good." Sophia laughed. "He asked me weeks ago if I loved you. I think he'll approve." The children's reactions to the news the next morning ranged from Thomas's satisfied nod to Emma's exuberant cheers to Hannah's confused but happy repetition of "Mama Sophie." That brought tears to everyone's eyes. Martha was equally delighted when they rode into town that Sunday to announce their engagement and arrange for the minister to perform the ceremony the following month. "I knew it," the baker declared triumphantly. "From the moment you offered to cook for his children, I knew you belonged together." "You're a romantic, Martha," Ethan teased, his arm comfortably around Sophia's waist. "I'm observant," she corrected. "And I've never seen 2 people more suited to each other." Not everyone shared Martha's enthusiasm. Victor Reynolds happened to be leaving the church as they were speaking with the minister about wedding arrangements. "Congratulations," he said with a cold smile. "How convenient for you both." "Thank you, Reynolds," Ethan replied curtly. I imagine Miss Lancaster is quite pleased with herself, the banker continued. Securing a ranch and a ready-made family all in a few short months. Sophia felt Ethan tense beside her, but she squeezed his hand in warning. "Mr. Reynolds," she said evenly, "I understand you may find it difficult to recognize genuine affection, but I assure you my feelings for Ethan and his children have nothing to do with property or convenience." Reynolds's smile tightened. "Of course not. I'm sure it's a love match." His gaze shifted to Ethan. "My offer still stands, Northrup, especially with another mouth to feed soon, perhaps even more little ones on the way." After he walked away, Ethan exhaled slowly. "I apologize for that. Reynolds has never forgiven me for refusing to sell to him." "Does he treat everyone in town that way?" Sophia asked. "Only those who stand in the way of his ambitions," Ethan explained. "He owns the bank and half the businesses in Roswell already, wants to own the rest too." "Well, he won't own your ranch," Sophia said firmly. "Or intimidate us with his insinuations." Ethan smiled down at her, his eyes warm. "Have I told you today how much I love you?" "You have," she replied with a smile of her own, "but I don't mind hearing it again." October arrived with crisp days and cool nights. Wedding preparations occupied what little free time Sophia had between her regular duties. Emma insisted on helping to make decorations, while Thomas solemnly practiced his role of escorting Sophia down the aisle in place of her father. One evening, a week before the wedding, Ethan found Sophia in the attic, looking through a trunk of Caroline's things that had been stored there. "What are you doing?" he asked, his voice neutral. Sophia looked up, startled. Emma wanted to know what her mother looked like. "I thought there might be a photograph I could show her." She gestured to a framed portrait she'd found. "She was beautiful, Ethan." He crossed the room to look at the photograph, Caroline in her wedding dress, smiling at the camera with the same expressive eyes Emma had inherited. "She was," he agreed softly, "inside and out." "I hope you don't mind," Sophia said, suddenly uncertain. "I thought the children should have memories of her, something tangible." To her surprise, Ethan knelt beside her and took her hands in his. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "for understanding that Caroline will always be part of this family. Some women might be jealous or threatened." "How could I be?" Sophia asked sincerely. "She gave the world Thomas, Emma, and Hannah. She loved you and you loved her. Those are all precious gifts. I would never want to erase her memory." Ethan kissed her then, a kiss full of gratitude and love. "I don't deserve you," he murmured against her lips. "You keep saying that," Sophia replied, "but I disagree entirely." The wedding day dawned clear and cold with a hint of snow in the air. Martha had insisted the ceremony take place in town so everyone could attend, and the small church was decorated with autumn flowers and ribbons. Joseph drove Sophia and the children in the wagon, while Ethan had ridden ahead to make final arrangements. Sophia wore a new dress of deep blue wool, with lace at the collar and cuffs that she had carefully sewn herself in the evenings. Emma and Hannah had matching ribbons in their hair, and Thomas looked uncommonly tidy in his best shirt and trousers. As they approached the church, Sophia was surprised to see how many people had gathered. It seemed the entire town of Roswell had turned out for the occasion. "Everyone wants to see the woman who finally caught Ethan Northrup," Joseph explained with a grin as he helped her down from the wagon. Inside the church, Martha fussed over Sophia's dress and hair. "You look beautiful, dear. Ethan won't know what hit him." "Is he nervous?" Sophia asked, adjusting Emma's ribbon one last time. "Nervous? That man is so in love he can hardly stand still," Martha chuckled. "Now remember, deep breaths. Don't faint on us." The ceremony itself passed in a blur for Sophia. She remembered Thomas's solemn face as he walked her down the aisle. the proud expressions of Emma and Hannah as they scattered flower petals, and most of all, Ethan's face as he watched her approach, a mixture of awe, tenderness, and love that made her heart swell. Their vows were simple and heartfelt. Ethan promised to cherish and protect her all the days of his life. Sophia promised to love him and his children with all her heart and strength. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Ethan's kiss was both tender and possessive, drawing good-natured cheers from the assembled guests. The celebration afterward was held at the town hall, with food contributed by nearly everyone in attendance. Sophia found herself passed from person to person, receiving congratulations and well wishes from people she had met only in passing. "Mrs. Northrup," a voice said behind her as she was speaking with Martha. "It has a nice ring to it, doesn't it?" She turned to find Victor Reynolds watching her with that same cold smile. "Mr. Reynolds, thank you for coming. I wouldn't miss it," he replied smoothly. "Quite the fairy tale, the penniless young woman and the widowed rancher. Makes one wonder what comes next." Before Sophia could respond, Ethan appeared at her side, his arm sliding protectively around her waist. "Reynolds, enjoying the celebration?" "Immensely," the banker replied. "I was just congratulating your bride on her good fortune." "The fortune is all mine," Ethan said firmly. "Now, if you'll excuse us, I'd like to dance with my wife." As Ethan led her to the makeshift dance floor, Sophia sighed. "That man truly dislikes us, doesn't he?" "He dislikes anyone who doesn't bend to his will," Ethan replied. "But let's not waste another thought on him today." He drew her closer as the music began. "Today is about us, our family, our future." They danced until Hannah began to fuss and Emma's head started nodding with exhaustion. As they prepared to leave, Martha pressed a large basket into Sophia's hands. "Wedding supper," she explained with a wink. "And breakfast too. Joseph will stay in town tonight and bring the children back tomorrow afternoon." Sophia felt her cheeks flush as she realized the implication. "Martha," the baker chuckled, "you're newlyweds. You deserve some privacy. Now off with you." The ride back to the ranch was quiet, Ethan's hand occasionally reaching over to touch Sophia's, as if reassuring himself that she was really there, really his wife. The sun was setting as they arrived home, painting the house and land in golden light. To Sophia's surprise, Ethan lifted her into his arms as they reached the porch. "Tradition," he explained with a smile as he carried her over the threshold. Inside, he set her gently on her feet but kept his arms around her. "Welcome home, Mrs. Northrup." "I've been here for months," Sophia reminded him, leaning into his embrace. "Yes, but now it's official. This is your home. We are your family." He kissed her softly. "Forever." Later, as they lay together in what was now their bedroom, Sophia traced the lines of Ethan's face in the moonlight. "Happy?" she asked softly. "Beyond words," he replied, drawing her closer. "I never thought I'd find this kind of happiness again. You've given all of us a second chance at family. And you've given me the home and family I always wanted," Sophia said, resting her head on his chest. "I came to Roswell with nothing, and now I have everything." Winter came early that year, with heavy snow isolating the ranch for days at a time. Sophia found herself busier than ever, managing the household through the cold months, keeping the children occupied with indoor activities, and settling into her role as Ethan's wife and partner. Their first Christmas as a family was a joyous occasion. Ethan had ridden to town during a break in the weather to bring back gifts and supplies. Sophia had spent weeks secretly sewing new clothes for the children and a warm scarf for Ethan. They decorated the house with pine boughs and berries, and Sophia taught the children carols she remembered from her childhood. On Christmas Eve, after the children were finally asleep, Sophia and Ethan sat before the fire, sharing a rare moment of quiet. "I have something for you," Ethan said, reaching into his pocket. "It's not much, but whatever it is, I'll treasure it," Sophia assured him. He handed her a small wooden box. Inside was a delicate silver locket. When she opened it, she found a tiny portrait of the three children on one side and on the other a lock of golden hair. "Hannah's first curl," Ethan explained. "I saved it thinking, well, I wasn't sure what I was thinking at the time, but now I want you to have it, all of them, all of us." Tears filled Sophia's eyes as she clutched the locket. "It's perfect, Ethan. The most beautiful gift I've ever received." "I have another gift for you," he said, his voice suddenly nervous. "But it's not something I could wrap." Sophia looked at him questioningly. "I've been thinking," Ethan continued, taking her hands in his, "about family, about the future. And I hoped you might want to consider having a child, our child." He hurried on before she could respond. "I know we already have 3 wonderful children, and if that's enough for you, I understand completely. You've taken them on as your own with such love. But I thought perhaps—" Sophia silenced him with a kiss. "Yes," she whispered against his lips. "Yes, I want that too, very much." Relief and joy spread across his face. "Really? You're not just saying that, Ethan Northrup. In the month since I've known you, have I ever just said something to please you?" he laughed. "Fair point. You've never hesitated to tell me when I'm wrong." "And I'm not wrong about this," she assured him, moving into his embrace. "I love Thomas, Emma, and Hannah as if they were my own, but the thought of a child that is part of both of us—" She placed his hand over her heart. "It feels right." Spring brought new life to the ranch, calves in the pastures, seedlings in the garden, and the news that Sophia was expecting a child of her own. The children reacted with varying degrees of understanding and excitement. Thomas was pragmatic, asking practical questions about where the baby would sleep. Emma was ecstatic at the prospect of another sibling to dress up and play with. Hannah, now nearly 2, simply patted Sophia's still flat stomach and announced, "Baby," with complete acceptance. As Sophia's pregnancy progressed, the ranch prospered. Ethan's careful management and hard work were paying off, with a larger herd and improved pasture land. They were able to hire another ranch hand to help Joseph, giving Ethan more time with his family. One sunny day in May, as Sophia sat on the porch watching the children play in the yard, a wagon approached from the direction of town. She recognized Joseph's mother, Mrs. Rodriguez, and stood to welcome her. "Senora Northrup," the older woman called, waving frantically. "Come quickly." "There is trouble in town." Heart pounding, Sophia hurried to the wagon. "What kind of trouble is it, Ethan?" He had gone to town that morning to arrange the sale of some cattle. She, Senor Northrup, and others, Mrs. Rodriguez explained breathlessly. "There is a fire at the bank. Many buildings are burning. All men are helping to fight it." Fear gripped Sophia. "Are the children in danger here?" "No, no," Mrs. Rodriguez assured her. "Fire is in town only, but they need help, bandages, water. I came to tell you and to watch the children if you want to go." Sophia hesitated only briefly. "Thomas," she called, "come here, please." The boy ran over, his face serious as he sensed the tension. "What's wrong, Ma?" The name still warmed her heart each time he used it. "There's a fire in town. Your father is there helping." "I'm going to take some supplies and go too. Mrs. Rodriguez will stay with you and your sisters. You're in charge of helping her, understand?" Thomas nodded solemnly. "Yes, madam, will be good." Sophia quickly gathered clean sheets for bandages, filled canteens with water, and collected what medical supplies they had. Within 20 minutes, she was driving the wagon toward town, her heart racing with fear for Ethan and the townspeople she had come to care for. Smoke was visible from a mile away. a dark column rising into the clear blue sky. As Sophia reached the outskirts of Roswell, she could see that several buildings on the main street were engulfed in flames. Men formed a bucket brigade from the town well, while others fought to keep the fire from spreading to adjacent structures. Sophia pulled the wagon to a stop near the church, which had been turned into a makeshift hospital. She scanned the chaotic scene for Ethan but couldn't see him among the smoke-smudged figures fighting the fire. Martha spotted her and hurried over. "Sophia, thank God you've come. We're running out of bandages." "I've brought sheets we can tear up," Sophia replied, already unloading her supplies. "Where's Ethan?" Martha pointed toward the burning bank building. "In there. Reynolds was trapped inside. Ethan and some others went in to find him." Terror seized Sophia's heart. "How long ago?" "Maybe 5 minutes," Martha answered, her own face tight with worry. "The sheriff tried to stop them, said it was too dangerous, but they went anyway." Sophia forced herself to focus on the immediate need. She helped Martha organize the bandages and water for the injured who were already being treated in the church. All the while, her eyes kept returning to the bank building, now almost completely consumed by flames. Just when she thought she couldn't bear the waiting another moment, there was a commotion at the bank entrance. Through the smoke emerged several figures, supporting others between them. Ethan was among them, half carrying Victor Reynolds, whose clothing was singed and who appeared to be unconscious. Sophia rushed forward as they brought the banker to the church. Ethan's face was blackened with soot, and he was coughing violently, but he was alive. "Water," he gasped when he saw her. Reynolds inhaled a lot of smoke. Sophia helped lay the banker on a pew and handed Ethan a canteen. "Drink," she commanded, slowly. As the doctor attended to Reynolds, Sophia pulled Ethan outside for fresh air. "What were you thinking?" she demanded, fear making her voice sharp. "You could have been killed, couldn't leave him in there," Ethan replied between coughs. "No matter what I think of the man." Sophia's anger dissolved as quickly as it had flared. She pressed her forehead against his chest. "I know, it's why I love you. But please don't scare me like that again." Ethan's arms came around her, one hand resting protectively on her slightly rounded belly. "I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking about—" He stopped abruptly. "You shouldn't be here. The smoke, the excitement, it's not good for the baby." "I'm fine," Sophia assured him. "But I want you to let the doctor check you when he's done with Reynolds." The fire was finally contained by late afternoon, but not before it had destroyed the bank and 2 adjacent buildings. Miraculously, no lives had been lost, though several people, including Reynolds, were suffering from smoke inhalation and burns. As they prepared to return to the ranch that evening, Reynolds' wife approached them. The normally composed woman looked shaken, her elegant dress stained with soot. "Mr. Northrup," she said quietly, "I wanted to thank you for saving my husband's life." Ethan nodded, embarrassed by the gratitude. "Any man would have done the same, Mrs. Reynolds." "Perhaps," she acknowledged, "but not every man would have risked his life for someone who has been less than friendly." She turned to Sophia. "Your husband is a good man, Mrs. Northrup. My husband may not always show it, but he will not forget this debt." As they drove home in the gathering dusk, Sophia leaned against Ethan's shoulder. "You're a hero," she murmured. "Hardly," he scoffed. "Just did what needed doing." "The children will think you're a hero when they hear about it," Ethan grimaced. "Let's not tell them too many details. Thomas is adventurous enough without hearing stories about his father running into burning buildings." Sophia laughed softly. "Fair point. But I'm proud of you, Ethan Northrup." Terrified and furious, but proud. The fire marked a turning point in Roswell. With the bank destroyed, Reynolds was forced to rebuild and in the process seemed to undergo a change of heart. Perhaps it was the near-death experience, Or perhaps it was the way the community had come together to save him and his business. Whatever the reason, he became less aggressive in his business dealings and more involved in community improvements. For Sophia and Ethan, life continued to unfold with the rhythms of the ranch and the changing seasons. In September, just as the first leaves were turning gold, Sophia gave birth to a daughter they named Sarah Caroline Northrup Sarah for Sophia's mother, and Caroline to honor the woman who had first made Ethan a father. Thomas, now 8 and feeling very grown up, declared his new sister small but acceptable. Emma was delighted to have another girl in the family and immediately began planning all the things she would teach her when she was older. Hannah, not quite understanding that she was no longer the baby, alternated between fascination and jealousy. Ethan was transformed by the birth of this new daughter, marveling at her tiny fingers and the wisps of dark hair that he declared came directly from Sophia. Though he had been a loving and attentive father to his other children, there was something different in the way he approached this child, a tenderness born perhaps of maturity, or of the deep love he felt for her mother. "She's perfect," he whispered one night as he watched Sophia nursing the baby. "Just like her mother." Sophia smiled up at him, tired but radiantly happy. "She has your eyes, I think, that same determined look." "Poor child," Ethan chuckled. "Let's hope she has your patience to balance it out." As Sarah grew, so did the ranch's prosperity. The following spring, Ethan was able to purchase additional land adjoining their property, expanding their operation significantly. They built a larger house, with enough bedrooms for their growing family and a proper schoolroom where Sophia continued to teach the children. On the 5th anniversary of the day, Sophia had first offered to cook for Ethan's children. They held a celebration at the ranch. Friends from town and neighboring ranches gathered for a feast and dancing. The children, now ranging from Thomas at 12 to Sarah at 4, with Emma, Hannah, and 2-year-old Matthew in between, played games while the adults reminisced. Martha, now retired from the bakery but still the best gossip in Roswell, cornered Sophia in the kitchen. "Did I ever tell you I knew this would happen?" she asked, gesturing toward the happy scene outside where Ethan was showing Thomas how to properly roast beef over an open pit. "Only about 100 times," Sophia laughed, adjusting baby James on her hip. The newest Northrup, at 6 months, was a cheerful infant with his father's blue eyes and his mother's smile. "Well, it bears repeating," Martha insisted. "The moment you offered to cook for his children, and he said you had to eat with them too, I knew. That man wasn't just looking for a cook. He was looking for a partner, a mother for his children, a love to heal his heart." Sophia watched as Sarah ran to her father, arms outstretched. Ethan scooped her up with one arm, his other hand still on Thomas's shoulder, guiding him. "I wasn't looking for any of this," she admitted softly. "I just needed work, a place to stay." "And instead you found a home," Martha finished for her. "The good Lord works in mysterious ways." Later that night, after the guests had departed and the children were finally asleep, Sophia and Ethan sat on the porch of their home, as they had done so many evenings over the years. The night was warm, with stars scattered like diamonds across the velvet sky. In the distance, a coyote called, a lonesome sound that only emphasized the comfort of their togetherness. "Happy?" Ethan asked, his arm around her shoulders, his fingers playing idly with a strand of her hair. "Completely," Sophia replied, leaning into him. "Though I'm exhausted." 6 children is quite a handful. 7, Ethan corrected with a smile, placing his hand on her stomach. "Or have you forgotten about this little one?" Sophia covered his hand with hers. "How could I forget? He's been kicking me all day." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "So certain it's another boy," Mother's intuition. Sophia replied with a mysterious smile, though I've been wrong before. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the night sounds and the occasional creak from the house as it settled. Did you ever imagine this? Ethan finally asked. That day you offered to cook for us, did you ever imagine we'd be here like this? Sophia considered the question seriously. No, she admitted. I was desperate that day, hungry, alone, with no prospects. All I wanted was a chance to prove I could be useful. She turned to look at him in the moonlight. But I think I started to hope for something more that very first night when you insisted I eat with you. No one had shown me that kind of simple kindness in a long time. And here I thought I was being practical, Ethan chuckled. Seemed foolish to have you cook and not join us. It was practical, Sophia agreed, but it was also kind, and it made me really see you as a man who cared about more than just getting work done. Ethan kissed her temple gently. Best decision I ever made, bringing you home that day. For me too, Sophia whispered, thinking of the long journey from that desperate young woman to the content wife and mother she had become. For me too. Inside the house, one of the children called out in sleep, and both parents tensed, listening for further distress. When no more sounds came, they relaxed again, secure in the knowledge that their family was safe, their home was strong, and their love, born of a simple offer to cook a meal, had grown into something that would sustain them through whatever the future might bring. Only if you eat with us too, Ethan had said all those years ago. And Sophia had stayed for dinner and for a lifetime.